from his studios in New York, it's time for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Here's your host, Dan Tortora.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Proud to be hanging out with you inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. You're also watching on Facebook Live on facebook.com/live-now-DT, and of course on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So a lot of places to watch and listen to Wake Up Call every single Monday through Friday, and I appreciate you being here. As always, inside of MonPazPopcorn.com is what's popping. Today we add two more Syracuse basketball alumni to our Tourney Time talk this season. You've heard from the likes of Dale Shackelford, Gene Waldron, Roosevelt Bowie Jr. You've heard from John Wallace and company. So many different players have been on here. Jimmy Lee, I want to give a shout out. You can actually go check all of these out by going to any one of, from Podbean to TuneIn, to Spotify and Stitcher, YouTube and iTunes and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. John Wallace, Jim Lee, Hal Cohen have all joined the show. Eric Santifer, Andre Hawkins, as well as Gene Waldron, Rosie, and Dale, as I mentioned before. And now we bring Dennis DuVal into the show. Jersey retired, and as I told him, it's being handled with care as far as I can see inside of the dome. So let's bring Dennis onto the show. Obviously had a tremendous career at Syracuse, and I appreciate him so very much here in our community, and happy to have him here today on Wake Up Call. Dennis, how we doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well. And Dennis, I want to start there because you and I never really dove into it. You know, there's so many Syracuse players in history, but there's not a lot. You know, when you come into the Dome, you see that they've been, steadily adding some jerseys there, but there's not a lot of jerseys compared to the amount of players that played. What does that mean to you that of the few names that hang inside of the Dome, that your name is one of them?
Well, it's a pretty good feeling. And it's just the fact that you're being recognized with those other guys and those other players over the years shows that, it's an accomplishment that from a team perspective and obviously from an individual perspective, it's just a great honor to be amongst those guys whose names and jerseys are hanging in the Dome.
And the other thing about it, too, is everybody knows Lawrence Moulton for the high socks, but you rock some high socks as well, almost all the way to the knee. I mean, do you deserve some credit? I know Lawrence gets it all, but should we lean a little bit to your side too? Because I'm looking at the picture right now, and you were rocking the high socks also.
Well, if you look closer, the entire team was rocking the high socks. Yeah. That was actually back, obviously in the middle 70s, but that was the style back then. And everybody on the team, we had uniform socks that came up high. That was part of the apparel at that point in time.
Yeah, and Dennis, I got to give you credit too. I mean, the hair is on point, and just like I got to give that. I mean, I got to give that to you. I know the hairstyle is different today, but bring me into the hair because I'm loving the afro I'm seeing here in this picture. Like I really honestly I respect it. So. And I love music from all different times, so it brings me back to some musicians and whatnot. How was it to play in it? Did it ever bug you at all? And did you have the best fro in Syracuse basketball history?
Well, I can say I had the best fro in Syracuse basketball history. I will make that claim.
Okay.
I know there were others, but I think I had the best fro. But at that point in time in my life, and obviously in history, there was a lot of us that were rocking that style back in the 70s. If you look, Julius Erving, myself, others. We had that fro. We come from the same area as Dr. J, but that was something that I was proud of, and was part of my heritage. And obviously, at that point in time in the 70s, it was the style.
And I mean, to you, was it inspired by Dr. J? I mean, was that your favorite player, or was there somebody else that was your favorite player growing up? But how connected is that style to Dr. J in your opinion? Did you do it kind of as an ode to him, and was he your favorite?
Well, not particularly. My cousin lived next door to him and grew up and went to high school with him. So I've known Julius since I guess he was in the 9th grade and I was in the 7th grade. I've known him that long. But that was just a style for people of color and African Americans showing their cultural heritage, and it started obviously in the 70s. But a lot of guys had fros back then. If you look at the pictures, just something that we did back then as a style-wise. A little bit different now, obviously, but that was just part of the times.
But the thing is that, like you said, a lot of people had them, but as you made the claim, and I'm going to rock with you on it, that you had the best one in Syracuse basketball history. That's why I brought it up, because this picture, to me, identifies you as the best. But I need to go back to the fact, Dennis, that you're just casually said, oh, yeah, I've known Julius since he was in the 9th grade and I was in the 7th grade. Mr. Julius Erving, like, can we go back to that, I'm talking about Dr. J, and you're like, oh, yeah, Julius. Grew up next to, a family member. I've known him for a while. Bring me into the relationship with Julius Erving.
Well, actually, I saw Julius a couple years ago. We were at a charity event in Las Vegas for a charter school. He grew up in Nassau County. I grew up in Nassau County, which is downstate. We played against each other. My older brother played against them in the parks in the areas. You kind of had neighborhood and community rivals back then, where you went from different parts of the island playing in different parks against each other in games. But I was recruited to go to UMass. Obviously, I chose Syracuse, which I thought was the better choice for me, and to this day I'm glad I made it. But back then, you had Rick Pitino. You had Julius went there, Rick Pitino, Al Skinner. We all come from the same area in New York, and they all were trying to recruit us. And obviously, with Julius being there, it would have been a great team. But I forfeited over to the Cuse, and I've been better for it ever since.
Yeah, and you talk about, that decision, and also coming from downstate and just the level of talent from that area, just what you can say to that, because Syracuse still has a bridge, obviously, to that area of talent and still has players from downstate on the team to today. So, what does it mean to you to rep that, and how important that was for you to come from where you came from and to come to Syracuse and really, wear that on your chest as well?
Well, we're all from that metropolitan New York area, and it has a really good reputation for basketball in general. If you look at the Syracuse rosters over the years, a lot of the great players come from that metropolitan area of New York, New Jersey, and sort of in Connecticut area. We try to uphold that reputation, obviously, by our skill sets and working on our games and making sure when we do get to the college level and the pro levels that we represent it in the right way. Because at the end of the season and at the end of the school year, we all go back home. And there's always a lot of chatter, between guys that went to St. John's and guys that went to Syracuse, back then, or Manhattan College or Fordham. So you had to hold it up. I'm lucky to say I never lost to any downstate teams, St. John's, Fordham, or Manhattan College at the time on our schedule. But so I had good things to talk about when I went home.
Yeah, and the thing is, Dennis, speaking with Dennis DuVal here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios for Tourney Time Talk as we are amidst the NCAA tournament. Dennis, New York basketball is a staple of our country to me. And, for you to say, like, you never lost to those teams, so you got to go home and talk, and you got to go home, with that undefeated record, I don't want that to go understated because, in the state of New York in general, we talk and those of us that know what it's like to be a true New Yorker, we talk it, we walk it. Where you come from, to go home undefeated and to be able to talk it and walk it, like, you got some street cred that probably still lasts to today. And what can you say about New York basketball to really dive into it more? Because it's a part of the fabric of basketball. It's a part of the fabric of America, what true New York ball is, and you hail from that. So just what you could say about it.
Well, we from New York, in that metropolitan area where you lived in Queens, where you live in Nassau County, Brooklyn, Manhattan, or Harlem, we believe it's the mecca of basketball. Obviously, with the Garden being there, and over the years, obviously as New Yorkers, we boast about that. Not only do we boast about it, we make sure that when we get on the court, we can hold up what we talk about. So, all of us are proud of being from that area, and obviously going to Syracuse, a lot of my people that I went to school with, my fellow students, they're all from that area too, either from metropolitan New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. So we're all, it's a family, and we've got to hold up that pride.
And Kadary Richmond continuing that tradition right now, coming from the Brooklyn area. What does it mean to you, coming from where you came from in New York, and seeing Syracuse continue that and have Kadary from Brooklyn on the team right now?
Well, I was happy to see that, and I like the way he's playing. I think I know he had sort of a small injury there, and I'm sure he'll be back with this upcoming game. But just to see him play and watch his game, and knowing that he's from the area, I'm telling you, he's representing it well, and I'm sure he'll do even more in the future.
What is it about Kadary Richmond that makes you believe, speaking here with Dennis DuVal of Syracuse Orange basketball history, what makes you believe that he is repping New York well?
Well, the fact that, he plays hard. He plays both ends of the floor. The fact that, he's a good penetrator. And when he penetrates, he finds the open person. I think he helps spread that defense out, and I think that has a lot to do with when it comes to getting people open, like Buddy and others, to take those three-pointers or open shots. I think he represents that in terms of a guard and being able to see the full floor and being able to find other people to make things better.
And Kadary, like you said, he plays both sides of the floor. He has the wherewithal. He's got a lot of intelligence, a lot of basketball IQ, from my point of view, that, number one, he attacks besides Marek, he attacks the basket better than any other on the team. And he has the wisdom that when that shot clock is running down, he'll hold on to the ball, he'll kind of look and see it, and then he'll make sure he takes a shot, and he'll jump and bump and make sure he hits a guy so he goes to the free throw line. Just what you could say about his intelligence of knowing when that shot clock's running down. I'm not just going to take a jumper, I'm going to get myself fouled and try to make the shot. Just his acrobatic plays, making sure he gets fouled, and then on the defensive end, the fact that he actually will kind of key in on different things and jump his hand in to grab a steal, where we haven't seen that in Syracuse in a while.
Well, the fact that he's cognizant of the clock, and he knows how to use that clock at the end of it. He goes to the hole, meaning that he knows if he gets all the way to the hoop, they have two things: they're either going to foul him or he's going to make the shot. And then usually, his mindset is, the ref's going to call that. When you start trying to get all the way to the hole, him, that what you say you call a bump, that's going to be called in college basketball. So he has that to his advantage. He has his innate ability to figure out exactly when to do it, and that puts pressure on the defense, obviously, to be able to they're either going to have to stop him, or he can pass it off to someone for a short layup, or he can get his shot. As far as, he's got long arms, he's got long arms, and he knows how, when to reach in. In college basketball, sometimes it's hard to reach in because they'll call it quick, but he seems to be able to get away with it. He seems able to make steals at in opportune times, and I think that's to the defense's advantage. Speaking
here with Dennis DuVal about Kadary Richmond, I want to go back to your play. Speaking about Kadary coming from the beautiful area, same type of area that you talked about, the mecca of basketball in the great state of New York. And I want to go back to, you were known to be a flashy player and your nickname was Sweet D. So I want you to bring me into the Flash, Sweet D. You had a pregame show. There was a lot of stuff that you did. You brought like entertainment to sports and that excitement out of Westbury. So bring me into what life was like on the court through your eyes, and what the world of Sweet D was like.
Well, first of all, I didn't give myself that name. Someone else did that. A guy named Joel Marinas, who was an announcer, radio announcer, and worked for WSYR TV and radio, is the one that came up with that. So once he did it, I didn't have too much say in what I was being called. But as far as the pregame drill, that happened by mistake. We were actually Coach Danforth started that. Before practice one day, I was screwing around, giving guys passes. We were doing layups, and I was messing around doing fancy, passing the ball between my legs, behind my back, and stuff that growing up in New York on those courts, you did it during the game, and that was an error, pistol Pete and a lot of other things, and it just was a style of play that we had. But Coach caught me doing that, and he said, "Hey, can you do that before the game if we have a layup line?" I said, "I'll do whatever you want." So we only did it during home games, and it was a layup drill. And basically what I did was, I passed it to my team. I stood in the middle of the floor by the foul line, and they cut off me, and I gave them passes. And at the end, I did a layup. I went behind my back and between my legs and laid it up. And that was the end of the drill. And then we started shooting around. But it got the crowd excited. It got me pumped a lot of times, got our team pumped. It was something that, my coach asked us, for me to do and for us to do. Something he wanted done, and obviously he was a pretty good crowd pleaser. If you look at the history of him, he liked getting them worked up. And I'll tell you something, I lost one home game in 4 years of college. Yeah. So it's tough place to play.
Yeah, and to go back to that, I mean, losing one home game, I mean that, and just, I mean, paint us a picture. You played back from 71 to 74 at Syracuse. Paint me the picture. This is, obviously before the dome. This is Manley Fieldhouse. This is that like tight knit space. Guys breathing down your neck. The fans are right there with you. This is real deal, like nitty gritty. Not that the dome is not, but like Manley Fieldhouse, you could feel people's breath. You could smell what they had for dinner last night. So what was that like to be inside of that and to only lose one time?
Well, it was great for us. You talk to the guys from the opposite team. Yeah. I don't think they were too happy about coming there. And if you talk to over the years, not too many teams wanted to come play us at Manley Fieldhouse. The fact of the closeness to it, the fact that we had a long history of winning there, the fans were unbelievable. I mean, when I say unbelievable, I mean today's fans are great, but so were they back then. But it was a tough place to play. The floor was 3 feet off the ground. It was off the ground. It wasn't on. It was raised off the ground. It was great floor to play on as far as a basketball player running up and down. It was good on your legs. But we knew, we could beat anybody in that place, and we knew that if you came there, you were going to go home with a loss, and we always felt that way. We couldn't wait to play whoever it was. We didn't have the biggest teams, but you weren't going to overpower us, and it wasn't going to be because you had a little bit more size. We pressed you sometimes 40 minutes. We pressed full court. We dropped back in zones. But we press you from end to end. We try to run you till your tongue hangs out, basically.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, going back to Manley, everybody knows, the dome these days, and they focus on what that's been since 1980 when it opened. But for you, Manley Fieldhouse still stands. It's obviously different. It's used for different things. But what does it mean to you to drive by that? What do you think of? What are the memories? What sticks out the most about those days where Syracuse basketball was in that tight knit, close quarters of Manley Fieldhouse?
Well, I remember just looking at it the first time I saw it, coming from high school to that. It seemed like a huge place, you know what I mean? Which it was back then. But just the memories of playing there, the battles that we had with certain teams where we beat St. John's. They were number 7 in the country, and they came and we beat them on Valentine's Day. I think it was 1973 where they were number 7 in the country, and we they left there with a loss. Those games, and obviously, our relationship with the fans during that period of time, it was great. And just to, watching the program grow and being part of that, when you ride by there and you look at, what it was and then and where the program is now, it is so great to see. Watching it grow and grow and grow and being part of that whole era and that family of Syracuse basketball, means a lot.
Speaking here with Dennis DuVal, Syracuse Orange men's basketball history. Dennis, the more we talk this morning, the more it is clear for people to see that you are rich in tradition and the history of Syracuse basketball. When you look back on your time and you think about Manley Fieldhouse and, like you said, the best fro in the history of Syracuse Orange basketball, plus the jerseys retired, plus losing one game at home your entire career, plus, what you did in kind of that pregame show to get everybody pumped up. I mean, for you to take all of that and put it all together, when I say Syracuse basketball to you, Dennis, what are the first things that come to your mind? Because you are such a part of our history. You're a part of this city. You're a part of New York basketball in general that we spoke about, and the tradition of that and the respect of that and the grit of that, if you get respected all around the country, but you go back home to downstate New York and you don't have respect from them, you're trying to earn that too. And I mean, there's something to be said about the fact that, coming from where you came from, playing for who you played for, being a part of the tradition, being in Manley, everything that we've talked about so far, when you think Syracuse and you think about your career, what are the first things that come to mind? Because anybody that doesn't know you, I mean, they're getting educated this morning, and I'm like a kid in my studio, just really excited that we get to have this talk. So,
well, it's just being part of that. It was obviously a life-changing experience for me, and like other players, some of us we still have those relationships now with our team members. That never goes away. A lot of people don't know what the history is. A lot of people are current, so sometimes you have to remind them.
Yeah.
When most people think of what's going on and what's right in front of them now, and that's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But all good things had a beginning, and we were all part of it.
And you look back on your teammates, and you said that you're always a family. Speak with me on some of those teammates that you stay close with, today, or that you've stayed close with throughout your time. The ones that really stick out to you that you had at Syracuse from 71 to 74.
Well, Jimmy Lee and I are close. We talk frequently. His brother Mike doesn't live too far from me. We always try to stay in touch and communicate with each other. Obviously, Jimmy and I played in the backcourt together, so we have obviously a different relationship. He was a year behind me, but we played together, for 2 years in the backcourt. But seeing the guys during Alumni Weekend is meaningful because life goes on, but it's just important.
And seeing them, like you said, during Alumni Weekend and being around each other, we obviously honor those that have passed, Conrad McCray, Pearl Washington, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's some incredible people that have come through here that aren't here today to sit with us. I didn't have the pleasure to speak with Conrad. I had the pleasure of sitting with Pearl, and before, really a year before he got sick again, we got to go around the community, and we went to 3 different places in the community and did shows. I remember at Carvel DeWitt, we sat there, we did a show, and I was running the camera, and we were both sitting next to each other talking, and these 2 women came in. They were sisters, and so not just they were sisters in the church, and they came in. And one of the coolest things that I know from growing up Catholic, growing up Christian, is that the church is very involved with basketball, and there are some nuns that they go hard on that NCAA tournament, betting money, like they put it on. And one of them noticed Pearl, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And she came over, and I was gonna edit it out because it was in the middle of our conversation, and I said, "You know what? I'm not gonna," because it showed Pearl stopping mid-conversation to greet somebody, to ask her how her day was, to take her hand in his hands, and to thank her so much for everything she did. And he was very calm. And Dennis, I'll never forget, I think it was the last time he was in my car. And it's the funniest thing because he lived in Liverpool, and it's just crazy like how close he was to where I grew up and everything. And when we were talking, we sat in the car, remember exactly where we were, and he said, and I try with all of you, and I know, you did a tremendous thing with me, with my festival, and so many did. You guys have been by my side in an incredible way. And Pearl sat next to me in my car, and he said, "You know what, Dan?" He said, "I appreciate you." And I said, "I appreciate you too, Pearl." And he said, he's like, "I call us friends, but we're not friends." He goes, "With everything we've been through and talked about and stuff we did," he goes, "we're more like brothers. We're family now." And that was one of the last things that Pearl said to me when we were sitting in the car together. And I didn't know when he got out of my car that day that would be the last time. Yeah. And so I think, moments like that, I want to thank Pearl. I want to thank you. Like, you guys, beyond my job, beyond growing up watching basketball, beyond my entire family supporting Syracuse, from my grandparents on down, I want to thank you personally, and thank Pearl, and thank Dale, and Rosie, and Sonny, and Jimmy, and everybody out there for being incredible personally in my life and building a relationship with me, because, you guys, beyond anything you did on the court, you make me feel special when I'm around you all, and to me, you guys were all larger than life growing up. So I just want to tell you, I really respect it and I appreciate it.
So do I. I'm glad to talk to you. I'm glad I met you. Like I said, anytime you need anything, all you got to do is call.
And coming from Dennis DuVal here today. Dennis, we got some messages coming in. It says, Sweet D was a pleasure to watch in Manly. My friends and I still talk about watching him play Buzz SU class of 70. And then he said, Sweet D, Kid Coles, the Lee brothers. These guys put Syracuse basketball on the map. And then he said he has on his ringtone, But It's All Right. And he said, I used to play But It's All Right in the lounge of Del Plaine 2 and mimic Sweet D's ball handling tricks. So
yeah, that was one of the songs we warmed up to. We had music back then. That was one of the things in the 70s. We had a lot of music, and that was one of the songs.
And that's the thing. You guys were spoiled. Like my music goes back. Like I was growing up listening to like 60s and 70s music. I listen to everything. I listen to jazz. I listen to hip hop, R&B, like that soul music. I listen to country, which I never did before. But I kind of like grab into all of it. What were some of your favorite songs to warm up to back in Manly?
Well, we had the Isley Brothers too. Who's That Lady? It's All Right. And the guy that made the tape was our teammate, Bobby Dooms. He's the one that put all the music together. He was my roommate in college. But we had a combination of a lot of different things. The theme from Shaft, I don't know if you remember that, with Isaac Hayes.
Yeah.
So, but it was, a lot of Motown, a lot, just a mixture of things that, but more of an upbeat kind of thing. But people knew when we were coming out of the locker room and the music started playing.
Yeah,
so.
And I think we need some of that now. Now we just get no offense to the band music, but we get that now. Like if you came out, if they came out now to some Isley Brothers, some Marvin Gaye, I'd be See, my thing is, if that camera ever catches me in the Dome, I told my buddy Isaac that sits next to me, love Isaac, shout out to him, Isaac Elford. But when the music comes on in the Dome and I catch a song that I like, I'm always back there, my shoulders are rocking, and I'm singing in the music, I'm having a good time. I'm like, man, I'm going to be the first media guy that gets picked up on ESPN for this. So, but
yeah, but no, the music got us going, and it got the crowd going. When we came out of the tunnel, when the music started, it was on.
And it's great. And I got a message here from Dale Shackelford, said, big hello to us here, and he also made mention, he said, please give my best to Dennis, and he says, Orange for life. And then we got a message that came in that said, tell him he's unforgettable. And then I got another message from Alan here that said, let me see where it is. It says, ask Dennis to tell his Roy Danforth recruiting move that sealed the deal.
Well, I just talked to Dale a couple weeks ago, so we talked by phone. That's one of the I didn't mention that I talked to regularly, but the Danforth move was, they had an all-star game in Schenectady, New York called the Schoolboy Classic back then, where all the top players from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York played in an all-star game. I was on the New York team. I made the New York team, and I was starting guard in the New York team. We wind up winning the entire tournament. So we beat all the other states at that time. There was probably, I don't know, they say there was 100 and something college coaches there. It was a big event.
Yeah.
Julius Erving won the MVP in it years back, and I went there, not knowing exactly what school I was going to at the time. Obviously, I was being recruited by Syracuse, St. John's, Jacksonville. I had 200 scholarship offers, but I wasn't really sure exactly where I was going to go. So at the end of the game, I get the MVP. I still have the trophy at home. And, now I'm the MVP of the tournament, and we win it, and I'm in the locker room, and I'm in the shower. I got all these coaches in there. Danforth pushes, and I'm supposed to go to Syracuse the next week for my official visit. He busts through the crowd that's in there. He walks into the shower where the water's running, with his shoes on, and he says to me, "You are coming to Syracuse next week, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, Coach, I'll be there." I said, "But can I finish taking the shower?" He goes, he says, "I got to get ahead of these other guys." He says, "You got to promise me that you're coming next week." I said, "I'll be there." And obviously I came, and I signed my letter of intent the next week. But he was a little worried that that someone else was going to scoop me up. But, at that point in time, I had already made my decision between myself and my high school coach, who was my guidance counselor and almost like a father to me. So we already decided. But I had to make an official visit. But he pushed right in front of the line. He walked right in the shower. He did not care.
Well, the thing, but he got you. You know what I mean?
Oh, he got to me for sure. He got to me. That's for sure. It's a little different.
And you mentioned your coach who's like a father figure to you. Give him a shout out, because I think obviously that relationship is special.
Ed Krinsky. He was actually there when my jersey was retired. He came up for that. He still lives in Long Island. Still alive. He's 86 years old.
What does it mean to you to still have him here with you today, especially after everything we've been through this past year?
Well, it's pretty important. Pretty important.
And what did he say anything to you the day your jersey was retired, or was there anything that kind of stuck with you?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, it was enough said that day. Trust me.
What were the things that, you remember the most, said that day, done that day, and embrace when your jersey was retired?
More so, just all the people congratulating me. That was important.
You standing?
Nothing special. Just being grateful.
You stand in the dome, and you have that moment. At Manley Fieldhouse, you built that moment. What does it mean to you to live within both worlds of Manley and the Dome, and to have them both know you, both respect you, and what you did in one is now represented in the other?
I don't know. It's just closure, that being recognized for what you did in college, and other people recognize, not just yourself, your teammates, those type of things. It's important to know that your teammates respect you, and that you didn't do it yourself. You had a full team behind you, and you can't win without it. So, not just me.
But I mean, and that's the thing. You talk about that they were behind you, they were there with you. To know them still to today, and to have that connection, to have that love, to have that brotherhood. I would imagine to you that the friendships that you built and the connections that you have go well beyond any wins and losses. I mean, yeah, you guys can reminisce, but the fact that they're still in your life and the fact that they wanted to congratulate you that day, I would imagine, all these years later, that to you has to be the sweetest part of being Sweet D, so to speak.
Yeah, it is. But from an end, you could score. I could score a lot more points. That's and I know that. In the game, I can get myself worked up. Well, I might score more points, but we're gonna lose the game. We're gonna lose the game because you're gonna get out of team concept. And sometimes it's not about, even though you're scoring and people depending on that, you've got to sacrifice to make your teammates better and to make sure that they're involved in the game. Scoring points and being able to score, and, those are good things, but those are individual issues. I think that, the success I had was because of my teammates. You can't be selfish. You got to understand that, that this is a team concept. If you look to championship teams, they work together. And, we didn't have a lot of size, but we had a lot of grit. But, I averaged 20-something a game my senior year and almost 20 my junior years. Could I have scored? Sure, I could have. But that wasn't the issue. That wasn't important to me. Important to me was winning.
Yeah, and I respect that, because some people look out for their shot, they look out for themselves, and they don't care. And in your case, you wanted everybody to eat, not just yourself.
But I wanted to win.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, you wanted the team to rise, not just you to have the accolades. So
yeah, I wanted to win first. The other stuff is secondary. Got to win first.
So what do you say to players in college and players in the NBA now, especially in the NBA, where it sometimes looks like a one-man show? I mean, Russell Westbrook was the triple-double king, but Oklahoma City wasn't going anywhere. So what is your advice to the guys that are just focused on the me and not the we, as they as they try to build their stat line, but their team never goes anywhere?
Well, the bottom line is this: it's a win. It's a win or lose league. That's the way I look at it. You can score all the points you want, but if you ain't winning, it don't mean anything. And the guys that are around I'm part of this team too. I don't care how good you are. they have to be part of what you're doing, and you have to be part of what they're doing. And the teams that have success are with superstars that understand that, recognize that, and play to that agenda. And look at the teams that win championships. They have good. Some guys have good nights, and you got to know, who you need to go to, who needs to get it, and get it when. And there's times, I'll be honest, is where, I would say, when I was even in college, I said, look, I got to take this game over. But you got to know when to do that, and when not to do it. And there's a balance. And the balance is, the end is, how did we win or how did we lose? You have to accept both of it, but you have to understand it and you have to recognize it during the game. That's being part of the leader. So it's not all about you. It's about us. And you just got to figure out how we do this together. At the end of the night, it's not about who scored the most points on the team. It's whether we won or lost. And those are the teams that have success. Now, there's guys that I played against, and there's guys that a guy named Larry Fogel who played for Canisius. He averaged 40-something points a game, but didn't win any NCAA championships either. So it is what it is. Each guy's got to do what he's got to do. But I grew up in a concept where we had good teams, we had good players. I was probably the better of them all, but at that time when I was on the team, but you got to be able to share, and you got to be able to play within a team concept.
And I love that. And we're going to talk about this team in just a second, and the fact that you can say that you knew what you had, but it's a team concept. I respect that so much, and it takes a lot to say something like that. Dennis DuVal here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Before we get to the team that's happening now, Roy Danforth, we had the question come in obviously at Syracuse, he went to 4 straight NCAA tournaments. He went to a Final Four in 74, 75. And after his 4th trip to the NCAA tournament with Syracuse, he went off to Tulane, where things were never the same. 148 wins, 71 losses at Syracuse, 45 wins, double that in losses in Tulane with 90. The question coming in from a Syracuse fan was, do you know why he left?
Yeah, I know why. Money. I'm not going to put it in there. Listen, I love Coach Danforth, but I'm sure it was about money. That's what drives coaches away. It wasn't, they think that there's greener on the other side, and you know what? It might have been. But he's still connected to us. I'm actually driving right now, but he's still connected to us. But I'm sure he's offered a better opportunity. He thought was about a better opportunity. I have no problem with that. Fact of the matter, what he did is by him leaving, it created the opportunity for Coach Boeheim, which can't look back, because I tell you what, he's done an extremely great job with the program. He's held it up what it is, but he's motivated probably by a better contract, and that's what happens. But life's not always greener on the other side.
Yeah, even though it was the green wave. So with that being stated here, 2 final points here with Dennis DuVal. First one, Dennis, what do you think about the team? They got San Diego State, a 6 seed. Syracuse gets an 11. They're right on the line where I had them predicted in my own bracketology at number 11. I thought they were going to make them play in. I'm happy the committee did not. I want to thank everybody in Baldwinsville on 50 Oswego Street at Pizza Man Pub that was there with us for our bracket announcement broadcast with Demetrius Nichols, a fellow Syracuse alum, and hearing the fans erupt in real time when they saw Syracuse's name on the giant screen was one of the coolest moments of my life as a broadcaster and as a native of Syracuse. What can you say about this year's team and how they're playing right now? Maybe just your overall bullet points of what's sticking out to you from the team, either individually with some of the guys or as a whole.
Well, what I like, they're obviously playing better at the end of the season, which is important. They seem to have a lot of better spacing as it pertains to their offense, and they've been more aggressive defensively. Jimmy Scott, he throws in a press now and then. It puts pressure on the other teams. And I think what that does, it causes the other team to have some confusion, but it also spreads the ball out, in terms of steals and that type of thing. I think that offensively, Buddy Boeheim's doing a great job. He's scoring. He's finding more space and getting those open shots. I think their penetration of the guards is important. I know they've had a few injuries, but I think they'll overcome that. San Diego State is a tough team. I mean, they deserve the 6th ranking. There's a reason for that. It's because they've been winning, and they're going to be a tough out. I think Syracuse can overcome that. I think with their zone, they're going to force them to make shots, but they're capable of it. I think if we get off to a good start, I like Edwards in the middle, but Jimmy's bringing him in, behind Dolage, and I think that he can be a force inside at certain periods of time. Rebounding is key. Possessions is a key, and rebounding brings that possessions. Those are the things that I think they're going to help them. As long as they stay aggressive offensively, don't get passive, don't get side to side, I think they can win this game. But it's going to be tough. Definitely going to be tough.
Yeah. Yeah, they will be challenged. San Diego State, 23-4. Interesting note here: San Diego State against teams that are in the tournament this year. There's not many they played. UCLA is a play-in game. They defeated them in the San Diego State Thanksgiving Classic, 73-58 to start off the season. They lost to BYU. They lost back-to-back games on the road at Utah State, and then they came back and defeated Utah State to win the Mountain West championship in the Mountain West tournament. So they're 1-2 against Utah State. They're 0-1 against BYU, and they're 1-0 against UCLA for tournament-wise teams. And Syracuse has seen them before. They've seen them on an aircraft carrier, and they will see them again, which will be interesting. Who to you is playing their best basketball on the team right now? And so I'm going to ask you 3 different pieces here. Who's playing their best basketball on Syracuse right now? Who's been the leader all season? And who's the most underrated player?
Well, I think the best one right now is obviously Buddy.
Yeah.
He's doing what we call in the business what they paid him to do. Putting the ball in the hole, man. That's what he's doing. And he's doing a good job of it. I think Cadre is the most underestimated one, the one you said that don't get enough credit, in my opinion.
Yeah. I
like Griffin for what he's done so far. But, hands down, Buddy's bringing it. He's bringing it, what we call bringing it. So, and that's important. They need his scoring. They need it, because when he goes, they go. So it's not that they can't win without him, but, he's a key factor because he puts a lot of pressure on the defense. Yeah. And even if he's not scoring, if he's getting in position, he's going to get that space because they got to spread. They got to come out and guard him. You know what I mean? Because he's going to hit that shot.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny after the game where he made a bunch of threes against NC State. I said, hey man, save some of those for Virginia, and he said, I got you, and he did. Yeah. So, but yeah. I mean, over 1,000 points in 3 seasons and counting. He's got an extra year. I mean, there's a chance that I would say he could pass made threes of Jerry McNamara, and there's a chance he could get himself to 2,000 if he sticks around.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. Whatever he does, he deserves. He works hard. I know that. So it's good to see. Good to see.
Yeah, coming from Dennis DuVal. Dennis, final piece here. As a player, you got asked a lot of questions, and you never really got to ask them. So I'm going to flip the script on me. And with Dennis DuVal here, Syracuse Orange basketball history on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. I want you to put me on the hot seat. You can ask me any 3 questions in the world. It can be basketball related, sports related, or it could be about literally anything. But you got 3. You could go ahead.
Ask you a trivia question.
Okay.
And who is the first SU player to be drafted, undergrad drafted? either in the NBA or the ABA. You're gonna get the answer right away because I'm asking you the question.
Well, it was you, but I think the interesting thing is you got drafted by the NBA and the ABA because people forget that they were separate. And so, I mean, when you got drafted by both, how difficult of a decision? I mean, obviously the NBA and the ABA was trying to get in there, but how weird was that for you? I mean, especially to look back on it now, that you were drafted by two leagues, not like overseas versus playing in the NBA, drafted by two leagues here in America. How unique was that for you?
Well, the NBA wasn't drafting underclassmen. The ABA was. So I got drafted my junior year, which Coach Danforth knew. Well, everyone knew about it. He was concerned that I wasn't coming back. And, I had to make a decision. I made my decision. So, kept my commitment to Syracuse basketball. I was offered a contract, didn't take it. Probably the best thing, got my degree. All those things are important. But yeah, it was different. But you had two leagues, a lot of competition.
Yeah.
A lot of competition. There's a lot. Now, my second question to you is this: what do you see in terms of the past generations to the current generations when you look at players? How do you rate them as far as who could play in what generation? Do you look at them just by what they're doing at their time, or whether or not they're generation driven, meaning could they play in all the generations? Because people always ask, well, who's the best player? Who's this? Who's that? And I don't believe in that.
Okay.
Because it has a lot to do with the times you're playing. But a lot of people put emphasis on that. But I look at guys, when I think about those things, I look at it differently. So I'm just what your perspective would be when you view talent and you look at past players compared to current players, and how do you view that?
The first time I've ever been asked that question, and I appreciate. No, no, I love it though. It's a fantastic question. I do want to ask you when you committed to staying with Syracuse, even though the NBA wasn't drafting underclassmen and they came after you as a junior. Did Roy come back in the shower with his shoes on to get you to stay?
No, he didn't, and he didn't make any additional promises either to get me to come back. I can tell you that. So
fair enough.
It was we had a good relationship, but it was tough. It was tough for him, and it was tough for me. So,
yeah,
but I came back.
You did, and continue to.
It was all about financial. You know what I mean, for my family, which sometimes that's not the most important thing in life.
Yeah, but I mean, you coming back, Syracuse fans, very happy that you did. To answer your question about what guys could play now in other generations, I think LeBron, because of his physicality, I think he could play and impress in other generations. I feel like he would be challenged, but putting him up against, certain guys would be fun to watch. I think the centers of today, if there even is one in the NBA, I think they'd have a tough road. Like if Dirk Nowitzki had to really back a guy down consistently, he would hate it. If he had, I think if the guys now had to play Shaq and they had to play Hakeem and they had to play Kareem, I think it would be a different world. And so I think the guys that would transcend time, again, with a question that I really appreciate, I think Steph Curry, because of his shooting range, I would have loved to see him play Reggie all the time. So that would have been cool. So I think Steph's range could transcend. I think Kobe Bryant, I could see him playing with Larry Bird and Magic, and I could see him going back to those times. So I think he would translate. I think Jordan would translate to today. I think Magic would translate to today. I think Kareem would shock people. I think, the Shaquille O'Neal of the Magic and some time with the Lakers, I think he would just frustrate the hell out of guys now. So I think there's certain guys that could do it. But of the young guys, LeBron's physicality, Steph's shot, Kobe's all-around game, I would have to say all of them. But, the James Harden, let me shoot 19 threes a game, that would get lost. I don't think... Go ahead. What were you going to say?
What you just proved to me was this. That's why they're all Hall of Famers. Those are the people that could play generationally. And James Harden's one of them, in my opinion. But all the people you mentioned, they're all Hall of Famers. Those are the people that are generational people. So those are the ones that I think, whether it be college or whether it be basketball or whether it be the pros, those are the ones that come across the generational strife, that they can play in any generation. And most of those people wind up being Hall of Famers. That was my point. That's why I asked you that.
Yeah, and I love the question. And you're going to make me think. You're going to make me think about all day long. I'm going to be putting a list together. I'm going to be texting you, going, "All right, Gary Payton defensively. Like, there's guys that come to mind that are just special." And I mean, I think Hakeem Olajuwon, because he was that guy that could pump fake you, turn around and hit that fadeaway as a big man. And, I feel like now the big man's game, back then he was the guy doing it, and now like every forward's doing it. So he would translate to today as well. So what's your last question for me?
I don't have one. that was a two-question question.
Okay, fair enough. I get off easy on that one. But with that being said, Dennis DuVal, Syracuse Orange men's basketball history, tourney time talk, and all of the memories you brought today. Dennis, all I can tell you is I look forward to, just sitting down and grabbing a cup of coffee with you. I think we need to do that soon. And I respect you so much for all the work you put forward. And thank you for your kind words to me. And just, my grandparents would be really happy to know that I'm talking to you right now. So thank you for that. Thank you for the positivity and the love. And like I said, we'll definitely have to make sure we get together. The next time we talk, we'll have to be in the same room.
I hope so.
All right.
And, thanks for everything. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk to you and also to be your friend. So thanks.
Well, the pleasure is all on my end, Mr. DuVal. I appreciate it very much.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care. So that coming from Dennis once again, hanging out here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We're going to take a quick step aside, and wow, that was really meaningful. I feel like, I've been doing this thing for 17 plus years, and I feel like I come on the air and I say like, wow, that was amazing. But I mean, God continues to give. What I did with Juanita Ward last night was amazing. What Tammy Reese and I have done over the last few weeks and in general has been amazing to me. My conversation with Rex Culpepper, amazing last week, that you all got to watch. I mean, he says so many things about Syracuse football that you had probably no idea about. And then talking with Dennis this morning, like, Dennis thanking me for being his friend. Stop it. Stop it, man. I mean, that's thank you to everybody that listens, that watches, that's a part of the show, that hangs out with us, that, is here on Wake Up Call. I appreciate you. I do.